There are currently 6 official maps in ARK Survival Ascended, and 5 are remastered from the original game of ARK Survival Evolved. Today I'll be ranking those 5 remastered maps, not by how good or bad the map is, but solely based on how accurate the maps have been adapted from their ARK Survival Evolved versions, and whether or not they have been improved upon, and if the map has had any bonus map features added as opposed to its ASE versions. It does go a long way when the developers give us something new with a remaster, and a lot of these maps have changed massively in their remastered glory, or floppery, shall we say. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. Beginning with the island map, probably the map with the most nostalgic value for the majority of ARK players. This is where our journey began in ASE and where it also begins in ASA. I know a lot of players do brush off the island as it is the most bare bones map due to it having no DLC creature spawns or DLC resources, but for me the island is such a good map and the perfect map to introduce any new players to the game. It offers great exploration value and progression. This remaster does stay true to its original glory, giving it a massive glow up in almost every area. The snow biome really stands out to me. I couldn't believe how good it looked when I first saw it. Absolutely beautiful. Most of the map does follow suit and it does look great for the most part. A few negatives is that I wasn't a fan of all the mountains being covered in sandstone. I don't mind the beaches looking like that. However, they should have kept the grey coloured mountainous regions from the original version. It would make it look so much better and add a bit more variety to the map. All of the caves look great and overall I would say a very nice improvement. Some of the caves do get a little framey at times, but for me at least the map does run relatively well as a whole. Another disappointing look for me, which is the same case for most of the remastered versions of the maps, is the size of the non-harvestable grass. It's ridiculously high and painful to explore through. I do get that you can use the grass size scale command to get rid of it, but I believe we shouldn't have to use any commands like this to improve our experience. So those are the positives and the negatives. The devs did give us a couple of new map features though. There was a bunch of new mini islands off the coast right opposite Kano Island. These did offer some cool new potential base locations, and a bunch of awesome ruins were added around the map. And these weren't just tiny ruins, these ruins were massive and very detailed, so big props for that. I've always wondered if anyone has ever built in these new ruins. Let me know in the comments if you have. I would love to hear about it. Anyway, that just about sums up the island. It does stay true to its original version. A couple of negative points, but does add some aspects of new exploration value too, and I really enjoyed myself playing through this new beautiful version of the island. So the island goes into the A tier category for me. Moving on to Scorched Earth, the desert themed map that everyone is said to hate, but a map I have an extreme amount of love for. I've replayed this map countless times, so you can imagine I was highly anticipating this remastered version, and well, they hit the nail on the head with this one. As it is a desert themed map, we can't really bash them for having sandstone rocks throughout the entire map, but honestly the map in my opinion is the perfect remaster. They really did cook with this one. Everything looks amazing, from the mountains to the canyons to the desert to the small amount of water sources. Perfection. It even runs a lot smoother than the island. But what impressed me the most with this remaster was the amount of new features that got added. So let's go through some of the most notable features. There are a bunch of new caves added, one inside the heart of the Wyvern Trench, which is quite a large cave with a few lava streams running through, and also plenty of water, so it could potentially be a great spot for a base. Directly below the red obelisk swimming through the shallow water is a long underwater tunnel, which by the way was the first time ever Scorched Earth had seen water that was deep enough that could warrant the use of a scuba tank. This tunnel leads you into a brand new giant oasis cave where you can find many creatures spawning throughout, loot crates and resources. It's that massive that I was expecting it to be a new artifact cave. And while on the subject of caves being added, there was a final non-artifact cave with this giant ruin inside, which is a very cool find to stumble across. Not only this, but you can harvest a crusty wall inside that leads you down further into the cave, harvesting another rock leading you into a room with a dinosaur skeleton, many drawings on the wall, and a skeleton of a man, which is probably Vin Diesel because he's been waiting so long for ARK 2 to release. I don't really know a lot about ARK lore off the top of my head, but if I'm not mistaken this does look a lot like a tease for ARK 2. Some of the markings are very resemblant of the markings from the ending of the ARK 2 trailer that released years ago now. It's a really nice feature to see in the game, and I think it's safe to say none of us expected this. effects. Finally, I'd like to bring up the detailed weather storms. The lightning and wind effects of the lightning storm look fantastic, and most of all the sandstorm. It's so cool being able to see the incoming sandstorm in the distance. Probably one of the single coolest visual effects I've ever seen in the game. The only negative point of the map for me was the sandy Wyvern Trench. They should have kept it dark and scary like the original, which was basically fully black covered rocks throughout. Other than that, Scorched Earth was pretty much a perfect remaster with a ton of fresh new exploration value, which is why for the first time ever, Scorched Earth goes straight into the S tier. Up next, we have the center map. As this is a tough one for me, as I was always a center map enjoyer. The map is quite unique, especially when compared to the island and Scorched Earth, which were the only maps available around that time at the beginning of ASE. But the center remaster in ARK Survival Ascended did lose a lot of its uniqueness, and pretty much everything that made the original so great. So if you haven't played the original from ASE, then you'll probably think it looks pretty good. But we are ranking these maps in terms of accurate remakes, and of course new and interesting bonus map features. The center, however, fell short in almost every category. Let's begin with the not so dark and dangerous lava island. They completely ruined this island, going from an island made of fully black sands and black rocks to a tropical looking island covered in their favorite sandstone colored rocks, the same sandstone that they covered the island with. I cannot stress enough how disappointed I was to see Lava Island as a remastered flop. I was really hoping for a refresh and remaster in the same direction as the original look and color of darkness. More disappointment came with the iconic Skull Island, which was designed in a similar way as Lava Island in ASE, dark and dangerous. You could fly inside over a lava pool and get rich with metal, crystal and obsidian. The remastered Skull Island had none of that, just another plain and simple giant rock covered in sandstone coloured rocks that you couldn't even fly inside of anymore. At least they kept the skull design, I'll give them that. The boss arena was also disappointing. We went from this beautiful, unique Japanese looking temple arena to a boring lake with a couple of structures to play around with, not to mention the building's unique architectural design. Maybe the person who designed this structure was having a bad day at the time. And finally, my beautiful ice palace is not so beautiful anymore in ASA. It looks ugly and sticks out like a sore thumb. Looks like they just plopped it down and were like, done. Sweet, and did nothing else with it. The underground world was okay. It still looked relatively pretty, but it just didn't give off the same majestic feel that it did in ASE. Maybe the lighting is far too yellow. I can't seem to put my finger on it. Anyway, the positives. The ocean received a nice bit of TLC. It looked great in the deepest parts, and a lot of resource nodes were added, including a ton of metal nodes, making it far more desirable to explore down there. Adding to that, the underwater bubbles were much improved, with the larger boasting a unique looking ruin in the center of it. The caves also had a massive glow up. I was a fan of those changes. Each lava cave even had water inside, where you could farm a bunch of silica pearls in the shallow waters. A bunch of new awesome looking islands were added in between the west snow biome and the lava island, adding a lot of awesome exploration value and potential base locations. A giant bridge running from one of the East Easy Islands all the way to the lava island, which gave that side of the map more unique exploration value. These new features were definitely much needed due to the center being made up of so much ocean. Sadly, these new features aren't enough to save the map from going straight into the C tier category. And then we have Aberration. Oh man, I loved ARK Survival Evolved's version of Aberration. Easily a top 3 all-time favourite map for me. It holds a special place in my heart, and I was really looking forward to doing it all over again in ARK Survival Ascended. Sadly, I was mistaken. This is probably a hot take here, but I would love to know what everyone else thinks of the remaster. Aberration was by far the worst remastered official map, and in my opinion, it wasn't even close. It really does pain for me to say all this, so I'll just keep it as short and sweet as possible. Aberration is split into 3 main zones. Let's begin with the green zone. Too much foliage, more of that excessively long grass, constant flickering of shadows and lighting. It's very painful on the eyes in pretty much every department. Moving into the blue zone, it doesn't get much better from there. This area used to be one of the most beautiful looking biomes in the entire game. It is still kinda pretty, but once again, lighting is horrendous in this area. It's just painful on the eyes once again. Moving down deeper into the red zone. It's more of the same, except in the red zone it's of course much darker than the rest of the map. So lighting becomes even more of an issue. It's probably the better looking out of the 3, but it's still pretty painful on the eyes. Sadly, Aberration as a whole in ARK Survival Ascended feels dark, dirty, and has lost all that majestic fantasy feel that all zones offered in the original version due to the lighting and colours being so painfully saturated throughout, to the point where it just ruins everything that made Aberration so great. None of the free zones feel remotely satisfying to explore anymore. I have noticed that Ark Survival Ascended does struggle with lighting quite a bit, and I think it really shows in Aberration as everything is naturally dark. The map is also poorly optimized when compared to any other map. There's not many good things to say about it other than the changes to the surface were pretty cool. The effects of the incoming firestorm is really impressive and looks amazing. Sadly, that is not enough to save the map. It was such a shame for me, going from religiously playing Aberration so much in ASE to not even playing this version at all in ASA. I made quite a few video guides on the map, but it was the only map so far that I have never bothered to play for fun or casual play, which is why my poor baby Aberration belongs in D tier. It's very sad. After the disappointment of Aberration, Extinction came, and it was like a breath of fresh air. I'll go over the biomes very quickly. The lost city known as the Sanctuary looked great, pretty much keeping its identity, having a lovely glow up. There was more of that excessively long grass on a lot of the structures, which kinda winds me up. But yeah, I do always have to use the grass scale command to properly enjoy my time in the city. Other than that, it was very refreshing to spawn into and fully explore it all over again. Moving out into the wastelands. And wow, never thought I'd say that about the wasteland, but I did have my concerns, being as the wasteland is typically very yellow in terms of colour throughout. But no, they absolutely nailed it. It looks perfect. The forbidden zone in the northern part of the map was once again executed perfectly, staying true to its terrifying look and feel of being the most dangerous region on the entire map. Moving into the dome biomes, we have the desert dome. Once again, looks great. It's kind of like a slightly prettier Scorched Earth, and Scorched Earth was remade perfectly, so a big win-win there. The sunken forest is another biome I had big concerns with at first, as this is a biome very reminiscent of the Aberration's green zone, and you all know what I had to say about that zone. But I was once again pleasantly surprised. It looks fantastic and doesn't have any ugly lighting or any of the issues the green zone had from Aberration. This is exactly how Aberration's green zone should have looked like. It's a peaceful area and looks very pretty. Finally, the snow biome. I did like what they did with it for the most part. I know they changed a few things around, but they did add a couple of buildings in this biome too. These made for some very cool base locations. I've seen a number of people build awesome bases in and around these abandoned structures. A few other new map features were added, including the meteor shower effects having a cheeky glow up, a wandering King Titan world boss, offering a new challenge for all those boss fighting fanatics. All in all, Extinction did compete with Scorched Earth as an almost perfect remaster, so it goes straight into the A tier. Not quite the level of Scorched Earth Remaster, as it didn't add many new map features like Scorched did. And that is going to be the end of the video. I hope you all enjoyed it, and please do let me know in the comments if you agree with the ranking or not. I would love to hear everyone's opinions either way. I'll probably redo the video in 10 years when Wildcard finish adding the rest of the remastered maps. So with that being said, if you did enjoy the video, please don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more, and I'll catch you on the next one. Take care, goodbye.